What is the story that we're learning here in this first? What is it setting up for us?
It's kind of like the backstory of what was going on during the time when Odysseus was like beginning his journey back in life. I guess kind of foreshadowing what is to come for him and what he might have to deal with on his journey back.
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly right. So we're getting Odysseus' background. He fought in the war. Now he's with Calypso, stuck on this island, but he wants to go home. He's going to go on his way home. We have some foreshadowing here. We'll go into that in a second. We know he's going to make it, but he's going to go through a lot of trials along the way. Okay? Good. So it's setting up the story for us. Literally telling the story, what we need to know before we jump into the story. Good. Okay, so the last two steps in the SQ3R are to recite the questions and answers to yourself. So I'll have you do this on your own tonight. So you're going to go through the questions again and go through the answers on your own to make sure you're still grasping what you went through and you actually recall it and didn't just write it down and let it go. Okay, so this is part of the process of just repeating what you've already learned to make sure it sticks. And then our last step is to review. So we'll summarize the material now, and then you have to review it again on your own in the next day to make sure it still stays. I know this is a lot of steps, but this is how you become a good reader and actually process this information. Okay, so I think Siddhartha summarized it well for us just now. Yes, thank you, Siddhartha. So our story here, our summary of this first intro is we have the background about Odysseus. We know what he did. He fought in the war, the Trojan War. Now it's over. Where he is now with Calypso on the island, he can't leave. And what he's going to do is to journey on home with his men and have a lot of trials along the way. Okay? Good. So on the next page, once you write down your summary, when you back it over, there's a chart that says tell the story, which is the passage we just read. So we're going to go through it one more time and look for the language, the figurative language, and the rhetorical devices, or the language devices that we talked about yesterday in class. So allusion, talked about the epithet. Okay, so we're going to go through this again and pick out, because your assignment tonight for homework is to do the same thing on your own. So we're going to practice first together. So, the epithet, remember, we talked about in class. Went over the definition. I have a reminder for you here, a tag or a nickname to describe someone. So another way to think of it, in a lot of ways, if you've heard of the term apositive and a positive phrase, how many of you, raise your hand if you've heard of an apositive? That's an A. A few of you? Okay, so an apositive is a noun or a phrase that comes after a different noun to describe it. Usually it's enclosed in commas. So this is an example right here. I might say, John, my student, went to the store earlier today. So John is the noun. My student is our positive, which is giving more information back to John. Okay, so our noun phrase back to our first noun, giving more information about him. Okay, so you use it all the time. It's very familiar to you. That's the actual name for it. So an epithet, this would also be an epithet. An epithet does not necessarily have to be enclosed in commas like that. And usually when we see it in here, it probably won't be. But there are a few examples in this first couple stanzas where it is enclosed in commas like this. So let's go through together and find a couple. So in our first stanza, sing in me muse and through me tell the story of that man skilled in all ways of contending, the wanderer. Where do we see an epithet there, Siddharth?
The wanderer and also that man skilled in all ways of contending.
Exactly, good. So those are both epithets. So we have first, that man skilled in all ways of contending. Who's that referring to?
Odysseus.
Odysseus, good. And then we have the wanderer. And that's referring, once again, to Odysseus. Yes, Siddharth?
When we mark these, should we be writing the page number and line?
I would write the line down.
Okay.
If you want page number as well for yourself, you may. But definitely include the line so you can find this later if you need to. Okay? So good. Thank you, Siddharth. Two good examples there in the first 3 lines just of the poem, right? So the wanderer and that man skilled in all ways, both referring back to Odysseus to give us more details here. So instead of outright saying Odysseus, it's more poetic, of course, to describe him in this manner. All right, let's continue on. How about in the second half of the second stanza? They killed and feasted on the cattle of Lord Helios, the sun, and he who moves all day through heaven. How about the 2 of hearts? Who's that? 2 of hearts? Somebody has it. Look at your cards. Oh. Thank you, Michael. Okay, so look at the last the last 4 lines of the second stanza for me and see if you can see an epithet there. Actually, 2 again.
The sun for Lord Helios.
Good. So there's the first one. So Lord Helios being referred to as the sun because he's the sun god, so that makes sense.
And he who moves all day through heaven.
Absolutely. Good. Thank you, Michael. So we got 2 right there, both referring to Helios, the sun god. Okay? So he is Lord Helios, he is the sun, and he is he who moves all day through heaven. It's 3 different descriptions of the same god. So we're going to see this over and over again with multiple descriptions of the characters. How about in the first line of the 3rd stanza? 7 of hearts. How about look at the first line in the 3rd stanza. Do you see an epithet there? Okay, you can still answer.
So, of these adventures, oh no. Yeah, right.
Yeah, you can read it out if you want to.
Adventures, Muse, daughter of Zeus,
You can stop there. Where in that first line do you see an epithet?
Muse.
Muse, daughter of Zeus,
Yeah.
right? Good. So Muse is who we're referring to, and she is daughter of Zeus. Daughter of Zeus is giving us more information about this Muse, one of the 9. Well, Zeus has a lot of children, but one of the 9 specifically daughters were the Muses. Good. Thank you, David. How about the last 4 lines in the 3rd stanza? The Queen of Diamonds. Did I do that one? Queen of Diamond?
You already done.
Oh, okay.
I can do it again.
You can if you want to.
Okay. It was.
Last 4 lines in the 3rd stanza?
Trying to start at Her Ladyship.
Sure.
Her Ladyship Calypso clung to him in her sea hollow caves, a nymph immortal and most beautiful who craved him for her own.
Good. So where do we see the epithet there?
Her Ladyship
Good. That's 1.
and a nymph.
Good. A nymph, immortal, most beautiful. Those are all referring back to Calypso. So again, we have this elevated language. We're not just going to describe her once. We're going to describe her over and over again in different terms, which one makes it more interesting for the audience to not just hear Calypso over and over again. We hear the nymph or the immortal or her ladyship. Okay, so we're hearing different terms to describe the same woman. All right, we've got one last one in the last 2 lines. About the Ace of Hearts.
What am I referring to?
So the last 2 lines in the 4th stanza, looking for an epithet in these last 2 lines.
Is that line 30 or is that line?
The 31 and 32.
Okay, so I'll book Poseidon, Raging. So, does that start with the yet all the gods? Or
Start with against, well, you can just start at raging, cold, and rough.
Raging cold and rough against the king. Till he came ashore last on his own land.
Hmm. What do you think? What kind of noun phrase do we see in there that might be referring to somebody else?
Brave king.
Yeah, absolutely. So the brave king. Who are we referring to as the brave king?
What's that? I mean,
Odysseus. Good. So Poseidon's raging against him. He's our brave king that Poseidon is not okay with. Good. Okay. So let's move on to allusion. We've got one particular allusion right in the first stanza near the end. Let's see if the 6 of hearts can pull it out for us. 6 of hearts.
Oh, sorry. I was yawning there.
All right, Kayla. The last 2 lines of the first stanza.
Against the brave king till he came ashore to his
No, the first stanza.
own land. Oh.
It's okay.
And he who moves all day through heaven.
The first stanza.
After he
There we go.
plundered the stronghold on the proud height of Troy.
Good. So what do we think an allusion might be there in those last 2 lines?
Proud height of Troy.
Good. So what's that referring to?
Like Troy's really proud.
But what happened with Troy in that
Oh.
10-year thing?
The Trojan horse.
Good. It was part of the Trojan War, right? So the 10-year war. So we're referring here to Odysseus plundering the stronghold on the proud height of Troy. So the ending battle of the Trojan War. Yes.
Isn't there also an allusion to like he, like just by saying he, are they alluding to Odysseus? Isn't that what you said? Like the he is Odysseus, so technically.
Well, it is, but an allusion is usually to a different historical event or a literary work, not just like a person.
Okay.
It's more specific than that.
Okay.
Good. So Homer's audience would have expected, well, Homer would have expected his audience to catch that reference and know when he says the proud height of Troy, he's referring to the Trojan War that Odysseus played a large part in. Okay? Good. So how about some foreshadowing? There's a ton of foreshadowing in this first little bit here, which is surprising since it's the first bit in the novel. Kayla, did you want to share?
Yeah. When he said after he, wait, I lost mine.
That's okay.
Can you come back to me?
Yeah, I'll come back to you. Anybody else?
Oh, I found it.
Oh, okay, go ahead.
Okay, when it said all the gods have pitied Lord Odysseus, but all but Poseidon. That's kind of foreshadowing that Poseidon might be like a problem in the future.
Absolutely, good. Good way to pick that out. So we see Poseidon, who's going to rage cold and rough. Okay, that's foreshadowing that something bad's going to happen. Poseidon's going to be angry. He's going to punish Odysseus for something. Good.